I remember way back when I got my first Steam account, and I was looking for new games to get. I opened my account with the Counter-Strike Source and Gary's Mod bundle, but that slowly grew as I discovered new games. One of those was Killing Floor, and I fell in love with it. The co-op shooter was addictive, and that continued into the sequel, Killing Floor 2, making it feel like an entirely enhanced experience. Now, Killing Floor 3 is here, taking another leap forward in terms of both quality and mechanics. It's definitely interesting to see how the game feels compared to its predecessors, but I love the direction it's taking and see a lot of potential, even with the extreme amount of grinding needed. However, in this video, we'll be going over how Killing Floor 3 runs on the Steam Deck and whether it's good to play on the go. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that like and subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified as soon as our next video goes live. Your experience may be slightly better than what you're going to be seeing in this video. And a copy of the game was provided to us by Tripwire Interactive for review. Thank you. Going into Killing Floor 3, I was under the impression it wouldn't play at all on the Steam Deck. When I talked to the team at Gamescom last year, they said it wasn't what they were aiming for, and I completely understood why. The game is gorgeous, and with so many enemies on the screen at once and tons of explosions and limbs flying around, it looked like it would be hard to run. Even when I got Killing Floor 3 to review, I didn't immediately try the game on the deck and thought there was no way it would run. However, I'm glad I went ahead and tried it anyways because it performs much better than I expected. The biggest performance strain is going to be Unreal Engine 5's Lumen lighting and reflections. These are on by default, and by turning them off, I went around from 25 to 28 frames per second to around 50 to 55. I was even able to bring the XeSS upscaling up from balance to quality and still get above 50 frames per second performance when playing alone on normal mode on the Convoy map. Playing solo isn't nearly as intensive as playing with friends on harder difficulties, and it did still have a drop or two to around 37 frames per second when using grenades or monsters being in my face, but it's definitely playable, and this performance was pretty consistent throughout the other maps as well. If playing solo, I would probably recommend keeping the game at XeSS balanced with everything on low and a 40 frames per second lock. I would consider the game very playable like this, and while there may be some slight drops, I would still consider it very solid. To stress test, I had one of our other writers, Oliver, join me in a match on the highest difficulty on multiple different maps, and there were definitely more drops. It did stay about 30 frames per second, but it was never as bad as it could get. If you're going to be playing with a full party of 6 people on the highest difficulty, I could see it dropping below 30 frames per second in some cases. The intense action mixed with hundreds and hundreds of enemies can be a little bit too extreme for the deck, but again, it's actually playable and much better than I expected. I also recommend using Steam Input to bind the down D-pad button to one of the deck's back buttons. This will make using a syringe to heal up significantly easier. It still feels a little bit weird to use a controller to play a first-person shooter. I'm used to using a keyboard and mouse, and it's a night and day difference for me, but it's actually playable, and I could see myself doing some solo runs in bed on it. In general, I would consider the game playable on the Steam Deck. If playing solo, 40 frames per second will be the sweet spot, while playing on higher difficulties with friends may need a 30 frames per second cap for stability. All of this is done in the lowest settings since the game is still very power hungry even with Lumen turned off. This is also one of those games where I did enjoy playing without a frame rate cap and it still felt pretty smooth most of the time, but for stability purposes a 30 or 40 cap is going to be the way to go. Killing Floor 3 doesn't support 16:10 resolutions, but it has solid controller and cloud safe support. There are HDR settings and it does recognize the OLED screen on the Steam Deck. The game can also be played offline, but it may not carry over progress. Killing Floor 3 is exactly what I wanted to see in a sequel to the previous game, and I'm shocked at how well it runs on the Steam Deck. I love the new progression and weapon mod systems, even if it is very grindy, but I am most shocked by it being playable on the go. It will need to stick to the low settings, and it does need compromises to frame rate, but the fact that it's playable at all is still really shocking. Killing Floor 3 can be purchased for $40 on Steam right now, and you can read our full review on our website. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified as soon as our next video goes live. And a huge thank you to our patrons. You guys are awesome. See you next time.